Believe it or not, this kit is 20 years old this year. So I think it's about time I did a first impressions on it. Hello, welcome to Model Kit Stuff. Yes, first impressions day, and today we're looking at this, the Tamiya 1:35 scale Challenger 2 tank, the desertised version, so Gulf War version. I'm guessing the markings are Gulf War, but we'll find all that out in a minute. This was released as a new tool in 2004. I believe it's been reboxed once since, but I couldn't tell you the year. Yeah, I don't think they've done a non-desertised version of it, which is a shame in the current climate. Challenger 2 tanks are in the news and being talked about a lot. So yeah, and we're about to have the Challenger 3 replacing the Challenger 2 fleet in the UK. So it's soon becoming an obsolete tank, an out-of-service tank, certainly for the UK Army over the next few years. So now would be the time to release another one before it's a bit too late, I would think. But let's get going with this one. So it tells us that we've got a highly detailed static model with a technologically advanced turret with the L55, that's the 120mm gun. Accurately replicates combat identification panels, that's those there. Canvas skirts and additional armour. Transparent parts used for gun sights and headlights. Commander and loader figures, and contains 3 types of markings. And when we look at the sides of the box, it pretty much emulates the top, but gives us a kit number, when I can find it, of 35274 from its 4600 series. We've got some more images, profile images on this side. If we turn around on this side, we've got an actual picture of it. I imagine that's in the Gulf somewhere, looking at what's in the background, and then we've got a top-down view of it as well. So the box itself is a standard Tamiya flimsy box with top opening and flimsy bottom as well, so not even a corrugated bottom. And we can see that we've got everything's in individual bags, but it's quite loose. There's a fair amount of space in there. Beckles in a bag, and our instructions. So let's have a look at the instructions. So we have the usual black and white stapled A4 portrait instruction manual. We've got a picture of the model on the top there. We've got a bit of history in different languages, and then when we flick over, we've got some caution notes, some recommended tools, then we've got our paint list. So the paints are all Tamiya, and just out of interest, because I don't think everyone's aware of this, those numbers, the X and XF numbers, are exactly the same on the enamels range as well. So you can use the same number as an acrylic or an enamel, depending on which way you want to go. Okay, so we start, we've got a sort of bathtub style bottom there. Quite reminiscent of an older time, really, though, you know, it already feels a little bit long in the tooth. It doesn't feel like a 2024 kit with all these bits sort of moulded in. But yeah, and we've got screws fastening some parts in, and basically some of the suspension elements going in. So then on step 2 we're making up wheels and rollers and sprockets and all that good stuff, and then mounting them all on, and then main wheels going on as well, so Christie system wheels. And then as we turn over, we've got step 5, we're building up the back plate before we add it on. In fact, it's actually saying just tape it on, temporarily fix with cellophane tape. So we build it all up, we've got spare tracks on there, and bits and pieces, all sorts of hooks and what have you going on there, and then we're taping it into place. Then we're building up what we've got, the tail lights being built up there. They look quite detailed with nice paint instructions for them, and then I don't know, we're gluing that in place now. Well, we're certainly adding the tail lights on, and we've got some bar, not quite sure what that is. Then we've got fuel and water cans being made up, mounted in a rack. We've got the drums that go on the back there, the external fuel drums, and then we can see they're being mounted on along with the jerry cans there, and then we're preparing the upper hull. So we've got some parts to go on the inside, and then we've got, would you believe it, rubber band tracks. That surprises me that in 2004 they weren't doing link and length, but they've given us rubber band tracks. We'll have a look at them and see what we think. So upper hull goes on, we're using poly caps for putting it in. Okay, that's interesting. Then we're building the side skirts, and the additional armour, I think, for the front. Yep. Step 17, adding the additional armour on the side skirts, front rubber mud guards there. We've got wing mirrors, we've got wire towing cables. You've got to cut some rope to length for that. Headlights being made up, exhaust system being done, so attaching the exhaust pipe, so exhaust on both sides. Rear of the mud guards being assembled and installed. Then we're starting to fit out the upper hull, so we've got, I think they're fire extinguishers and the mirrors and what have you going on. Then we're building up the gun sight, by the looks of it. 2-part gun. I mean, you couldn't get that in metal particularly well, I don't think. So 2-part barrel, and then we've got a separate muzzle, and a little section piece going in there. Then we're just mounting that into the gun, which is mounted into poly caps, so again that should be movable. Turret being built up. Again, we've got poly caps going in and all sorts of little fittings, aerials and bits and pieces going in from the inside, as well as all the vision ports, which look like they'll be clear. Then we're assembling some of the turret parts, including the gun, smoke discharges. Step 29, we're adding the turret. We're painting up a water bottle and painting up the figures, and that is job done. 29 steps, so not overly difficult to build it. Let's have a look at our paint scheme. So unfortunately they're all in black and white. We don't have a colour paint scheme for this, So A is Tank Number 1, 2nd Troop, B Squadron, Royal Scots Dragoon Guards, Carbonaras and Greys, 7th Armoured Brigade, Iraq, April 2003. Paint scheme B is HQ Squadron Command Troop, Royal Scots Dragoon Guards, Carbonaras and Greys, 7th Armoured Brigade, Iraq, April 2003. Quite bold markings on there. I think that's perhaps the better decals. And then you've finally got C, which is Tank Number 2, 4th Troop C Squadron, Royal Scots Dragoon Guards, Carabineers and Greys, 7th Armoured Brigade, Iraq, April 2003. So they're all Iraqi Desert Storm vehicles. And then on the back, there's some notes on painting and how to apply the decals. Right, shall we have a look at the decals next then? So our decals, nice vibrant colours. We've got all sorts of little markings on here. They're quite thick, but not too bad, sort of usual as you'd expect from Tamiya. Quite a bit of decal film in places, not too bad in other places, so a bit of a mixed bag. But the lions, for example, have a huge amount around them. So yeah, and we've got labels there for the water bottles and that sort of stuff. So yeah, all in all, not too bad. Register looks good. So they're never bad decals, Tamiya. It's just that they're really thick and they seem to not want to go down. So they can you have to fight with them sometimes. There's a lot of opportunity for silvering in some of these, so be very careful with them. So next items out of the box is a bag with loads of polycaps in. We've got some acetate. So some of that clear stuff we saw as lenses we might have to cut to size, which I'd missed in the instructions. We've got some string which you paint up for steel cable. We've got some fasteners. We've got some copper wire. Not sure I saw where that was going. And we've also got some I would say 0.5 plastic card, which we'll end up cutting as our identification panels. So yeah, the usual sort of Tamiya approach. You've got some multimedia items in there, and I think a lot of people enjoy those. Rubber band tracks. They're not bad. They're not bad. I've certainly seen worse. Yeah. I mean, the thing to do is to take them off and use the inside that you've got the sprue gates on the inside of the model, so they're not seen, because you're never going to take them off perfectly. But they're not bad, and if you can get them to attach. Okay, let's just have a quick go at that. Yeah, they seem to be well engineered, but I think you're probably best looking for some aftermarket tracks to replace those, but you could probably get away with them. It's just they're a bit more difficult to paint, and the biggest problem is trying to get them to sit right, I think. But yeah, there we go. So this is where we catch Tamiya out. This is a 2004 new tool. Or is it? They did this same thing that I'm about to show you last year with a tank. And when I was looking at the instructions, my immediate thought was, that's a bit of an old-fashioned way of doing it. And I'd be right, because when you look on the inside, you can clearly see this part is copyright 1985. So that means this is from the original 1986 tooling of the Challenger 1 tank that Tamiya released, and therefore they probably used this part in the subsequent Challenger releases up to the 2004 new tool. So obviously the dimensions are the same, but it doesn't quite have the sharpness and finesse of a more modern kit. So it's a bit disappointing that Tamiya do that, really. So what they've done is they've put a new turret on and a new top on, and we've got other new parts, but they've just left that just to save money. Was it worth it? I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are going to argue. I know I'm going to get it in the comments. Put the wheels on and you won't see that, so you'll never know. And you'd be absolutely right. But somehow it feels like this could have been done better. Sprue B, and we've got a whole collection of parts here, including the figures. We've got the gun barrels, which are nicely done. Yeah, we've got lots and lots of parts here. We've got the main back plate as well. Moulding is all crisp as we would expect, lovely and sharp. Very, very nice moulding. We've got some texturing on the hatch there that we can see. We've got nice recessed rivet and fastener detail. The gun looks really authentic, looks very, very nice. The louvre is nice and crisp. I don't see any sink. And we have some fine parts as well. I think that's the mirror arms. The figures, yeah, they're not bad either. Nice tight moulding actually. The faces, well, one of them looks like he's concentrating and the other one looks like he's had a really, really bad day. You'll see that in a minute on the photos. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's all lovely. So interesting part here, has that been bent? I think that should be up like that. Yeah. Yeah. Clean up, nice and easy. Very little seam on here. It's the usual high standard of plastic moulding that you'd expect from Tamiya. So I will take some photographs that we can see at the back end of the video, and we'll work through the sprues first. Sprue E, and we've got the turret parts here in the main. So top, bottom, sides. I think that's mudguard parts. Guessing that's to do with the gun, and we've got some little handles and aerial bases and the like. So yeah, again, no issues with the moulding. We've got some nice panel lines there and some fastener detail, and yeah, we've got some wording on here. I'm not quite sure what that is, cast numbers or something like that. Yeah, all good. Upper hull next, and this gives you a real impression of the size of this tank. It's a very broad tank. We've got lots of little hatches and plates and things like that. With the exception of the hatch here, everything else is moulded closed, which is a little bit unfortunate really, including the engine deck here. The moulding's not bad. Hinges have got nice definition. Yeah, all in all, not too bad at all. I'm just trying to see. I don't see that we have any issues with sink and stuff like that. I think that's the... Yeah, it's just a shame that those aren't separate parts, so you could model it open if you wanted to build yourself an engine or something. But it's 2004, so I'm going to let them off a little bit. But yeah, you wouldn't expect them to do that in 2024. But yeah, I mean, for a 20-year-old mould, this is really nice. We've got some lovely weld seams on it. Yeah. no doubt this was a popular kit when it first came out, because it's very nicely moulded. Our next sprue is D, and we've got all sorts of parts on here again. We've got mudguard bits, we've got the side panels, we've got parts for the suspension, we've got the fuel drums there, the jerry cans there. Everything is beautifully moulded, especially the canvas skirts on the side panels, if I can show you that. Look at the texturing on that, it's really, really nice, and they haven't sort of done one and then repeated it. Each one is individual, and they haven't mirrored it, because when I look at this side I can see the patination of the creases is different on this side than that side. So really, really nice moulding, impressive detail actually. Yeah, this is actually turning out to be quite a nice little kit. Yeah, no moulding issues that I can see. So yeah, all good. Sprue A now, and we have two of these in the bag. So mainly wheels and the arms for them, a couple of jerry can parts. We've got cable here, so I thought you were cutting string for that, but maybe you are for other bits. Spare track links, towing hooks, fire extinguishers, that sort of stuff. Bolt heads are nicely done. There's no sidewall writing on the rubber part of the tyres, but I'm not sure if there actually is on the real thing, so that could be right, couldn't it? Yeah, detailing on the wheels is nice. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. And finally we have our clear parts. So we've got the gun sights and various vision blocks. We've got a flashy light lens. We've got the visors for the figures, which is nice. The water bottles, which is a lovely touch. And our headlights. It's all very clear. It's all nicely moulded. No issues with any of that. Yeah, very nice indeed. Well, there you have it. Tamiya's 1:35 scale Challenger 2 desertised British main battle tank, released in 2004. What are my first impressions? Well, let's start with the packaging. Box is flimsy. I'd like at least the base of the box to be corrugated. That's not going to stand up well in your stash if you're not careful with it. The instructions, typical Tamiya instructions, the build flow is very, very good. The instructions are clear, a little busy for my liking. You'd you know, it's just taking a moment to study them and be clear what you're doing. Otherwise, all good. Paint instructions, it'd be nice if they were in colour, but not unusual for them to be in black and white 20 years ago. How quickly we forget what's changed in the hobby in 20 years. So yeah, no real issues with that. Obviously they've done a desertised version, so they're fairly limited to the Gulf Wars, aren't they? But yeah, and then decals, not too bad as far as Tamiya decals go. They were a little thick, you know, you're gonna have to battle with them a little bit, but yeah, everything you need was there, plus some, so no real issues with that. We've got some little bits of scratch building to do. We've got plastic card and clear sheet and that sort of stuff that we've got to cut out, and I'm sure the instructions will tell us how to do that at some point. But yeah, no real issues with any of that for me. And we've got some copper wire, which might be for the aerials, but I don't remember seeing the copper wire in the instructions as I was flicking through. So yeah, no issues with any of that. Plastic parts, well, they're all moulded lovely. The moulding is crisp, the detail is nice, the fastener detail is there, it captures everything. It's that usual Tamiya clinicalness, which means you get lots of lovely, beautiful, crisp detail. And particularly the skirts, they're a highlight. The low light being the lower hull. But as you look at this, you're covering the front, you're covering the sides, and you've got a separate piece that goes on the back. So are we actually losing anything? Not really, and I think that's why Tamiya did what they did. So no great issues with that either. I think the parts themselves were really, really nice and stand up well, even to modern standards. You know, if I was taking that out of the box and saying this is Ryefield models, no one would blink an eye. So yeah, no issues with that. Clear parts were good as well. So all in all, a cracking kit. I think probably the low light, if there is one, is the rubber band tracks. I think most people that enjoy building armoured fighting vehicles are going to have a look at replacing those tracks with aftermarket individual link ones. That's sort of par for the course. It might be interesting to use the rubber band tracks when we come to build it, don't know. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that stands out is we've got a complete tank there across about half a dozen sprues. So we didn't need 25 sprues, some of which has only got one part on that we're using, like you might get in a Ryefield models box. So for me, this is nice. I'd like to see more hatches that are separate so that we can pose them open, but I always like to animate a model as much as I can. So I think we lose something when they're all moulded shut. But, you know, it is what it is. If you want to build a Challenger 2, you don't have a lot of options. And this is actually a nice kit. It's still a nice kit. It stood the test of time. Yeah. Well done, Tamiya. Nice Challenger 2, that. So if you were ever wondering what you get in the box, you now know. So thank you for looking in. You enjoy your modelling, and until the next time, bye for now.